Welcome to the Week 8 edition of the 757preps.com Peninsula District Picks of the Week show. I'm Perez Thomas. I'm here with my buddy Jason Kidd as always. Did pretty good last week again, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Another 5-0 week. Had the Warwick Raiders losing to Hampton. And I picked Kecoughtan to beat Bethel in those two close matchups.
Yeah, what can I say? I went 3-2. At least I'm still above water. I can't complain. Those were two tough games to call.
Hey, this week's even tougher.
Yeah, I agree. First off, we'll go ahead and start with the Week 7 recap. We'll start with the domination of the Denby Patriots by the three-time defending state champ Phoebus Phantoms. They looked unstoppable again.
Well, they got off to a slow start when Denby scored first. Denzel Wise hit Michael Taylor for a 20-yard strike, and Phoebus went 50 unanswered, took him out 58. Pittman and Belfield both went well over 100. Another solid performance by the Phantoms.
Tell you what, Pittman's yards per carry average might go through the roof. I mean, I think he had like 8 carries for like $150 plus or something last week. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
We'll move into what both of us predicted to be the game of the week, but turned out to be anything but, and that was the game between those Hampton Crabbers and the Warwick Raiders, and Hampton won in a rout, 49-0.
Yeah, you picked them Raiders, didn't you?
That I did.
Yeah, Hampton came out firing on all cylinders. The defense got them on the scoreboard first when DeQuinn Moore returned an interception, 67 yards for a touchdown, followed by Dallas Cogsdale, Frank Brown, and Jeremy Eubank hooking up for Eubank and Jamal Brown hooked up for 2 touchdowns. Crabbers are for real.
Yeah.
I mean, they're back.
I tell you what, if they play like that, it's going to be some fun games here coming towards the end of this year. We'll go ahead and slide into what was another blowout between the Woodside Wolverines and the Gloucester Dukes. Woodside won that one 49-14. It wasn't that bad of a blowout at halftime, but second half, Woodside made some adjustments, finished the job, and rolled into the game against those Phoebus Phantoms this week.
That's one thing about Woodside. They're a second half team. They've fallen behind early in some games, and they make those halftime adjustments and come out and get the job done. Come out with that win. Donnell Lewis is sensational in the clutch. Look forward to this week's game against Phoebus, that's for sure.
Definitely. We'll move into another good game, and it was the Heriatge Hurricanes versus Menchville on Heritag's homecoming night, and they certainly enjoyed homecoming with the victory over the Monarchs, 28-0.
Yeah, Terrence Crosby had stepped up and had a big game. Had a running touchdown, 3 for 2. Hurricanes, everyone knew they were better than their wins and loss record, that's for sure. They give everybody all they got. They have no more respect for the rest of the PD, that's for sure.
Yeah, I look for them to be a sneak pick maybe this week and going against Kecoughtan. I think that's going to be a game that's better than some people may anticipate.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one.
And then we'll move into the last game of Week 7, which turned out to be the game of the week between the Kecoughtan Warriors and the Bethel Bruins, with Kecoughtan coming out holding on for the 20-14 victory.
Yeah, Adrian Pope, he stepped up in a big game. He got off. He had a over 30-yard touchdown run, had a punt return for a touchdown, had 2 interceptions. I mean, he was all over the field. He was my Peninsula District Player of the Week.
He was certainly solid, and Bethel tried to mount a comeback at the end, but too many penalties and too many turnovers doomed them.
Well, Kecoughtan had 4 interceptions and 4 sacks. It's tough to overcome.
Yes, it is. Well, that's the recap of last week's games. We'll go ahead and slide into the Week 8 games. We'll start off with Thursday night, which is another big game between the Warwick Raiders and the Bethel Bruins. Thursday at 7 at Darling Stadium.
Well, I look for Warwick to bounce back this week after taking a 49-zip beating to the Crabbers last week. Like I said, in the past, they haven't played well against the Crabbers. It's just not meant to be. But I think they bounce back this week. I look for Josh Butler to get back on track. I look for them to establish that running game. They had a hard time getting Carter and Johnson going against Hampton. And I look for them to try to get them going against Bethel to move those chains, open up things for Josh Butler. I see Warwick coming out with a 21-17 win.
Okay. For me, I do see, Warwick hopefully playing a lot better than last week. I know they were missing a couple players, I believe, due to the suspension from the Menchville Warwick get together earlier. And I do see Warwick making a much better showing than the 49-0 loss. But I just think Bethel is going to bounce back in front of the home crowd at Darling. I think Frank Brown, he's due for a big game because he struggled the last 2 games he's played. Proctor's been kind of quiet of late as well. I think he's going to step up. I think if Bethel wants to make the playoffs, they're going to have to make a statement this week. They're going to have to pull out a victory. I think they bounce back. I go with Bethel in this one, 28-24.
Well, speaking of playoffs, I definitely think it's a do-or-die game for both teams.
Definitely.
They want to get foot in the playoffs.
Yes, sir. All right, well, we'll move into the next game on Thursday night, which is between the Kecoughtan Warriors and the Heriatge Hurricanes. That one's at Todd Stadium at 7 o'clock. What do you feel about this one?
I think this is going to be a close, tight played game. Running game is going to dominate the play. It's whoever's defense shows up. And I think Kecoughtan has the better defense, and I think they'll come out with a close 20-14 win. I like Trenton Cannon to get back on track. He had a quiet game last week. The defense has been phenomenal. Devin Claiborne, T.J. Ricks. I like Kecoughtan in this one.
All right, I'll agree with you on that one. I think it's going to be a ground and pound game. If you ask me, honestly, they could probably play with a running clock because I don't see too many incomplete passes stopping the clock. The only thing that'll probably stop is maybe a couple flags. Be a lot of running. I mean, between the two teams, they're probably going to get over 80 carries, I mean, maybe even more than that. I'd say I'm going Kecoughtan on this one, 21-7. I think too much poke, too much cannon. Heritage is still learning how to win, and they're going to get there. But, these tough games will help them out for the future. But I just think right now, Kecoughtan's much more experience on the defensive side of the ball, and their defense has been lights out this year. So I'm going Kecoughtan 21-7. For the next game, it's another, may not be a marquee matchup, but I think it's going to be another competitive game between the Denby Patriots, and they're going to head down 17 and across the bridge to see the Gloucester Dukes. How do you feel about that one?
Well, I think Denby gets their first win this week. They're due. They're due. I know Coach Marcellus Harris and has them boys playing, has them prepared this week, and I see them pulling off a 26-24 win. I like the Denby Patriots.
All right, this week I'm going with Denby as well. I think they just have too many offensive weapons. The defense hasn't been there much at all this year, but Gloucester doesn't really have this high-powered offense or anything like that. So I think Denzel Wise and Shaquille Keys, I believe they step up. Gostomski make a couple catches, probably a couple TD grabs. I'm going Denby 26-14 on this one. Let's see here. Now we're going to go ahead and move into another Friday night game between the Hampton Crabbers, who looked phenomenal last week, and they're going over to play the Menchville Monarchs, who have been in a downward spiral, if I must say. How do what do you think about that one?
I look for Hampton to continue to have things rolling. I see a 63-0 win here. I see Eubank throwing for 300. They're three-headed monster and running back going for 300. I mean, Hampton has an offense right now that can go over 600 total yards in this game, and I see them putting up prolific numbers.
I agree with you 100%. Hampton is rolling. All cylinders, like you said. They look like the Crabbers of old last week. I think they continue to roll this week. I'm going Crabbers 56-0. I agree with you on the Eubank comment. I can see him rolling up the passing yards, and I can see them rolling up the rushing yards as Mike Smith likes to play his starters deep into the games. And I'm not going to say buff stats, but he likes to get them their playing time in. So I'll go with Hampton on that one, 56-0. And then that brings us to the final game, which is the showdown between the two unbeatens, the Phoebus Phantoms and the Woodside Wolverines. Phoebus coming in number 2 in the AP state polls this week. How they're not number 1, I don't know, but hey, I don't make the polls. With this one, I mean, it's the ground and pound monsters of Pittman and Belfield coming in, and then you go with Woodside, and they've got your buddy Donnell Lewis, who right now looks to be the front runner in the PD Player of the Year race. Honestly, I think this comes down to the trenches and the defenses, and I just feel like Phoebus's trench work, I mean, their offensive and defensive line are both stout on both sides of the ball. I think Phoebus dominates the trenches, and that's not to downplay Woodside's offensive line. They have a very good offensive line with, I believe, Ruckman and Westfall. I mean, they're tough individuals, but Phoebus is a monster. I think Woodside is a little too much dependent on Donnell Lewis, and Phoebus is going to be game planning for him all week. I think Phoebus actually rolls a little bit. Not a complete domination, but I'm going Phoebus 28-17.
I agree with you. I think Phoebus is going to win this game. And I think they're just too strong in the trenches. I think Donnell Lewis is going to see some pressure he hasn't experienced yet this year. And they can't afford to fall behind a good Phoebus team, because Phoebus is going to continue to put points up any way they can, offensively, defensively, special teams. I like Phoebus 34-10 in this one.
A little wider spread than expected. A statement game?
I think they've been making statements all year.
That they have. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of this week's show. As I've said before, I'm Perez Thomas. This is Mr. Jason Kidd, Mr. 5-0, I guess we can call you.
Sir, the last 3 weeks have been 15-0.
Okay, so we'll call you Mr. 15-0.
I'm not saying I'm going 5-0 this week, but hey, let's hope the good times roll.
All right. Well, we do appreciate you all supporting 757 Preps. You can always check us out on youtube.com/757preps. You can also check us at facebook.com/757preps. And, of course, Twitter at 757preps. And be sure to check out the website,
www.757preps.com.
Yeah, excuse me, www.757preps.com. And check out the stories, video, highlights, polls, all types of different stuff, picture galleries, and, scores. Anything else you want to add for this week, Mr. Kidd?
See you next week.
All righty, well, that does it. Have a good one.